do you believe in the power of prayer?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, I definitely believe in the power of prayer.
People who pray seem to have much happier and peaceful lives.
Praying makes me feel happy about whatever I'm doing in life.
And you believe in, along those lines, that science can be incorporated into the practice of prayer?
Well, I'm hoping so.
Science can back things up and show that prayer did actually work.
If we can prove the process of prayer, it's going to increase faith and belief and trust in God.
Good afternoon and welcome to Dinner with Dorann, Food for the Soul. We are here in beautiful downtown Evanston at 38 degrees. No, that's not the weather. It's the name of a wonderful frozen yogurt shop. I have the extreme pleasure of welcoming Bill Sweet, the author of A Journey into Prayer, which tells the true story of two spiritual healers who developed scientific laboratory experiments to test the effectiveness of prayer. Through this interaction, Bill became involved with Spindrift research. What does Spindrift actually mean?
Spindrift is a nautical term, and it refers to the edge of a wave during a hurricane or a cyclone out at sea. That we're doing very turbulent, controversial research. Also, it's kind of a symbol of between the visible and the invisible of consciousness. There's the visible matter, and then there's invisible vapor. Science and religion seem to be an oxymoron. They just don't go together in people's minds. But we're trying to change that, and there are people out at different universities trying to change that concept.
John and his son Bruce Klingbeil.
Yes.
Can you tell us about them? They were the founders of this research group.
And Bruce and John Klingbeil, a father and son, professionally were Christian Science practitioners, but they also had a strong scientific background in the natural sciences. And so they were looking for ways to combine things. And they started the Spindrift group.
And they wanted tangible evidence.
Yes.
And they started, Bill, with plants.
Correct. A lot of people that were testing prayer to this time have been using people. And the problem with that is there's so many variables with human beings that you really never know actually why something happens. With plants, it's you have a lot better chance of saying, well, if a plant changes, it's not affecting itself through the placebo effect.
Bill, along with plants, I know the Klingbeils also experimented with soybeans.
We would have people come in and pray for soybeans, and the soybeans would have a problem. And the problem could be easily explained as either they had too much moisture or they were undernourished with water. We tested two styles of prayer. And one intention was goal-directed prayer. It's when you ask for a specific outcome. Then we also have non-goal-directed prayer where you're open to the best outcome. And the best outcome we found is a more spiritual prayer. And we found that when we had two sets of soybeans there, one set was over-soaked and one set was under-soaked, that when somebody was an effective person conveying with their thoughts what something needed through prayer, their prayer was able to pull those soybeans in the correct direction.
Bill, can you expand on the effects on the plants? In other words, was it a visible thing that you can see when you were praying, or when the Klingbeils were doing the experiments in praying over certain plants? Did some perk up? Did some wither with?
Well, the answer is yes, but the more simple way to explain it is that we actually worked on a very low organism level. We actually worked on the seed level mostly, or we took samples of yeast and worked on the yeast particles. And what we were able to measure was how they were affected by thought. And we also had experts tell us ahead of time what to look for if the organisms were being benefited by thought, or if nothing was happening. The control group, of course, when you have something not prayed for, you can see nothing was happening. But we've also found with negative prayer that some people would actually apply thought to an organism and do more damage than good.
So, Bill, the Klingbeils, they isolated the bad effects from prayer. I mean, everyone thinks automatically that prayer is good.
Everybody thinks that, or most everybody, but we also studied what is called malpractice prayer or negative prayer. There are bad effects from some people's prayer too. And sometimes it's very intentional, other times it's unintentional. Sometimes petitionary prayer, when you're asking for something unintentionally, is harmful. We found that some people could do harm to these plants.
Are there differences between Catholics, Baptists, Zen Buddhists?
It may sound funny now, but originally we thought maybe there'd be the difference between Jewish prayers and Christian prayers and Muslim prayers and Baptist prayers. They'd all be different. What we found is that what's more interesting is, instead of a person's denomination, what determines the quality of their outcome of prayer has more to do with the quality of the person and what they're thinking.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with what religious group they belong to.
So would that encapsulate the secret to prayer, Bill? Again, it is your intention, what you want to happen, but you have to be open to all possibilities.
You could think of that as one of the secrets to prayer, non-goal directed prayer. The secret to prayer happens to be that when you're praying, you want to make sure that nobody knows what you're doing. You want to be completely spiritually paranoid about it. Jesus Christ said, when you pray, go into a closet, close the door, and pray to the Father in secret, and He will reward you in secret. And Jesus recommended. Now, how do you do that? You can't always do that.
Don't you think it, in a sense, the concept could put a nervousness, a sense of restriction or restraint on people worrying more about the method of praying?
There's nothing wrong with worrying about doing the wrong thing. You're revealing your openness that, you're kind of being humble. I want to do this right.
I understand. Yeah, it can be a bit complicated,
Yes.
Unless we kind of break
Seems
it down.
counterintuitive.
Yes, it does.
It's okay to have that attitude rather than I've got it all together and I'm going to do this and I'm not going to make any mistakes. That's kind of an ego position. See?
I agree.
I've been involved in Spindrift for years, and it's still difficult for me to get my own agenda, my own goals out of the way. It's one of the most difficult things to do as a human being. It's also thought in theological terms as thy will be done versus your will be done.
Like let go and let God.
Let go and let God, exactly, is the modern way to say it. This idea of developing qualities of thought and practicing your daily life, things like compassion and love and empathy, which are very important, and trying not to judge others, which is, that's tough. The more we practice that, on a subconscious level, we are developing quality. Just like when we practice an instrument. For a musician, they don't remember their rehearsals, but every time they're practicing, it goes into the subconscious mind and creates patterns of discipline.
Absolutely.
That are there,
that
come to the surface when needed. And it's the same thing with non-goal directed prayer. The more you develop your consciousness and include these qualities in it, they will subconsciously emerge to the conscious mind when needed.
Is there psychic warfare going on?
The answer is yes. There's a lot of psychic attacks going on. Some of it is strictly bad intentions towards other people. Some of it is people thinking that they're doing the right thing for God in the name of God, but it's really negative prayer. We certainly have seen that in the religious terrorism, pray in the name of God and go out and kill people. There's this group that was trying to sabotage the Spindrift experiments through prayer. You have a whole prayer group praying to stop Spindrift research from working because they didn't think it's, can't possibly work. Yet what they're doing actually kind of proves that the thought does do something. Going into this taboo of area of trying to combine parapsychology with religious ideas and bring the scientific method to it. It's what we call at Spindrift a combustible mixture. It's going to get somebody angry, and it does.
Yeah, and that's bringing back to John and Bruce Klingbeil. They unfortunately received undue criticism, terrible, dissension against performing these experiments.
I have several scientific friends who feel that the Spindrift story is bigger than the experiments. It's more of a sociological story.
Yes, it reads like a mystery.
We had divorces, suicides, people lost their jobs, people got excommunicated. Just unbelievable things that you would think would come straight out of something you heard in the Middle Ages happened to everybody at Spindrift.
A journey into prayer. It is fascinating and controversial, obviously.
That, again, seems to be the thing that people like when they read my book, A Journey into Prayer, is the story of the drama more than the experiments. Though I like to bring out the experiments, but people always bring up the drama.
Bill, what is your viewpoint of the future with doing targeted prayer again, taking it a step further from where the Klingbeils have gone?
We're going to find that through hook or crook, through default in science, they're going to find out about some of these things about consciousness and prayer and spirituality. Mm-hmm. And they may be reluctant to find these things, but it's going to relate exactly to the research they're doing in quantum physics. And the Klingbeils think there's something beyond quantum physics that hasn't even been discovered yet. When those things are discovered, and because they have a scientific basis, people are going to have to start saying, well, there is something to this. We feel that Spindrift is taking baby steps. It's doing basic science on simple concepts. And one of the things for the future is that science can't make these big leaps. We have to go little steps at a time to prove our points. Yeah.
Has anyone taken up where the Klingbeils have left off?
The answer is no.
Huh.
I would say that there's a lot more interest in doing it, and there's a lot more receptivity to spirituality and consciousness and bringing science and religion together. But it actually hasn't happened. There's this interest out there, but it actually hasn't happened.
Did the Klingbeils get into anything so far into the future as the prophecies of 2012?
It's very interesting. I don't know where we can get a copy of this, but John Klingbeil, the son, wrote a science fiction book about the future.
With computers.
Did you see a little bit of that?
Yes.
In his science fiction book, John's book, we have a series of monks that are the only ones that can open computer programs and encryptions and things through their spiritually minded thought. They have this spiritually minded, non-goal directed thought that lines up and matches a pattern. And when the pattern overlaps in pattern, then the thing unlocks. But nobody else with a different mindset can open it. To summarize for you, the secret to prayer is to do your thoughts in secret, because otherwise you're having trouble having original thoughts. You'll have other people interfering with you, and you'll be quoting other people rather than your originality.
We thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon. And my thanks again to my esteemed guest, Mr. Bill Sweet. Bill, would you like to give again your website?
You can reach me through the website, or any of us at Spindrift. It's www.spindriftresearch.org.
And you can find out about A Journey into Prayer. So thank you so much very, very much again for joining us. And until next time, have a wonderful, phenomenal week.